How to transition from barbed wire fences to electric. That's a good one.
Offset wires.
So yeah, if you have permanent, if you have a perimeter fence that's barbed wire and it's still it'll hold cattle, and it's also dependent on your farm. So let's just say the Arizona project, for example, that Greg went on. The Arizona project that he went there and fenced, it was a big L. So it was like 140 acres or something, and it went down and then over, and that was the land there. And then the bottom part of the L was, I think, the road frontage or whatever, and it was all fenced in barbed wire, the whole thing. And what he did to fence that is he went in there and he ran a single strand high tensile wire down the center of that L and then all the way up to the top. And then he also trenched and put in a water line underneath the same single strand high tensile wire. So what that allowed him to do is you could take and you could tie on to your barbed wire fence with like a plastic handle, so it's insulated and it's not going to ground out on the fence. Run your reel to the hot wire that's hot and hook on there, and then just strip graze, one right after another all the way around the L, all the way up to the top, and then back down, and then you just keep that rotation going around the L. So if that's something, that might give you some ideas of as far as putting in, a single strand of high tensile in the middle of your property that you can make fence hot from.
Yeah.
As opposed to trying to tear up all your barbed wire and put in perimeter. Also, that you were alluding to.
You could use an offset on your barbed wire. So
offset is in high tensile wire.
Yeah, so like you could run a if your barbed wire fence is not completely up to spec, but some of it is, and you just need a little bit more assurance. You could take a single strand or double strand or whatever of high tensile electrified and just run it 6 inches, 10 inches, offset from like inside from that barbed wire, so the animal will hit that high tensile before it interacts with the barbed wire, and so you could do it that way. The other alternative is just tear everything up if it's really bad, because at the end of the day you need to be able to sleep at night and know that the cattle will be inside the perimeter. Like if they bust through an interior fence, it's not the end of the world. It can be a huge pain and it can wreck your rotations, but you're not going to be chasing cattle all over creation.
Have someone hit a cow and get severely injured.
That would be even worse. So you need to have adequate perimeter fencing, whether that's offset wires on barbed wire, whether that's using good barbed wire that's already there, whether that's tearing up crappy barbed wire and putting in a good solid multi-strand high tensile perimeter. You just need a good perimeter, and then interior stuff should be minimum. Minimum interior fencing.
Notice Greg did a single strand just up the middle. No crazy paddocks. So it was the Arizona project, they had hired some people from the NRCS or something to come up with this formula. I don't know who somebody was trying to formulate a grazing plan, and they had all these paddocks. So they'd split it up the middle, and all these high tensile wires
which cost money,
going back and forth, and all these permanent paddocks, each with its own water point, and all. It was like, I don't know, $500,000 to set this thing up. And Greg went in there, and they're like, can you design a grazing like a fence plan for us? He's like, well, let me see what you got. And they're like, no, don't see what we got. We just want you to come up with it. He's like, okay. So we went and kind of drew it out, did the numbers or whatever, and came back and gave it to him, and they're like, what? And like all he said, the single strand of high tensile and then the water points every 200 feet, quick couplers. And I think it cost like...
It was a fraction. I don't know.
$40,000 or something.
It was a fraction.
Or less than that, probably, actually.
Yeah.
It was like $20,000.
Those might have not been exact numbers, but it's the point stands.
Yeah. And so it's like, it doesn't have to be complicated. And you don't really want it to be complicated. Because with all those permanent paddocks, say you want to make your paddock two permanent paddocks, the size of two permanent paddocks. How do you do that? You can't, you have to keep them in the single permanent paddock. So
Yeah.
The least amount of interior infrastructure to start out
the better.
is better, because you can always add more.
If
it's going to be a pain if fence is in the way, though. So just try to keep it
minimum in the beginning.